My name is Angela.
My name is Nicole.
And welcome to the Ominous Stitch podcast. Hello, Stitchers!
Hey, everybody.
Welcome to another amazing episode of the Ominous Stitch podcast.
Welcome back.
Yay!
Woo!
Welcome back. I've sung that like
Every
many times.
time.
Every time.
Welcome back to spooky season.
Spooky season.
My favorite.
Happy Friday the 13th, everybody.
Woo! I hope you guys all have a spooky Friday the 13th.
Spooky but safe.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Just like
just spooky.
the good kind of spooky where you're just like, ooh,
Yeah.
what was that? That's kind of ominous.
Yep. Yeah. So, Angela, what's got you in stitches?
So, okay. My oldest daughter just started junior high. You guys know that. She had her first dance.
Oh, I remember those times.
Oh, it's so cute. And it's called the homecoming dance, even though they don't have any sports at her junior high.
They don't have a football team, right?
No sports. No, none of that. It's so
Interesting.
funny. But yeah, it's a homecoming dance for her junior high. And, I think they're just trying to get them ready for high school.
Sure.
Another fun fact is that it starts a half hour after school.
Oh, it's
Right?
like right after.
It's right after school.
Okay, I
So
remember
it's
that happening too.
3:30
Yeah.
to 5:30 was her dance.
Oh,
Yeah, right after school.
I remember that. It was like everybody couldn't focus. Well, the girls at least, because the dance was right after school.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And it was semi-formal too.
exactly.
So
you'd be in jeans. and
yeah,
like-
so when I was dropping her off in the morning, because it's on a school night, so it was Friday, so it was a Friday. So when I dropped her off at school, there were definitely kids showing up in like suits.
Oh
There
my
were boys in
gosh.
suits. It was cute because they're not going to be able to change after school.
Oh,
Yeah, so they're going to school in their suits.
Oh,
and
that's
I didn't
hilarious.
see any girls in their nice dresses or but I
Oh.
did see some boys show up in suits.
because they're just like, I'm gonna wear it all day.
Yeah,
I would
which
do
I
that.
thought was so cute.
I would totally do that. I'm like, man, I spend money on, or my parents spend money on this. Might
Yeah.
as well like get your money out of it.
My daughter bought the most amazing outfit. First of all, it was
Yes.
like trying to talk her into going to the dance because she was like, no, I don't want to go. None of my friends are going. And we're like, no, you have to go. It's fun.
Yeah.
We'll have fun. And then eventually her friends, I think her friends' parents all talked them into going too. So they finally got a group going. And she, we were talking about dresses and it's semi-formal and it's junior high and she's very modest. And she's like,
Yeah.
and I was like, so, if we get a dress for you, then a lot of the dresses can be a little bit form-fitting. They can also show off shoulders and she likes to stay covered. And so I was looking at her face because I was like, so we might have to get, different undergarments for you that don't show.
She's like,
She was like, no. And her
Yeah.
face was turning white. And I'm like, oh
Aw.
no. Okay. All right. And I'm like, but we don't have to. We can find you something that, helps you feel comfortable and confident and
Sure.
covered.
Yeah.
She wound up finding this amazing hot pink suit.
Yes.
It's so cool.
Get it, girl.
I'm like, I'm going to borrow this. Are you kidding me? This is so cool. So
Pink power
So
suit.
she wore this hot pink power suit. We did a high Barbie ponytail.
Oh.
Put little glitter stickers all over her.
I
and,
love it.
Super cute.
Good for her.
So yeah.
I love that about her.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She
She's so
is.
much fun. And when she was trying on things to wear for the dance, we were out looking at outfits and we pulled out a couple of dresses because she liked the colors of them and she's like, no, mom, this this or the other thing, was not feeling comfortable or confident. One of that dresses, she wouldn't even come out of the dressing room. She's like, nope, I don't want to show you this one.
Yeah.
And then we found some pantsuits and there was this really pretty Vera Wang one that I was like, ooh, I want this. And she was like, okay with it. And she's like, yeah, I like this. This is cool. I feel comfortable. I feel confident. I'm like, you look awesome, kid.
Aw.
Like, get this pantsuit. But then we found the
Hot pink.
hot pink suit. And at first we just saw the jacket. I'm like, oh, this jacket's awesome. You can wear it with the Vera Wang pants and it would be awesome.
Uh-huh.
But then we saw the pants that went with it.
Oh,
And
that's
then
so
we
cool.
found this like white shirt that has like a big bow around the neck. So it looks like this big bow tie, but it's part of the shirt.
Uh-huh.
So cute.
That's awesome.
She put that on and she's like, Mom, this is it. She was so excited.
That's so adorable.
So, yeah, and she just couldn't stop talking. So I love it.
Good.
Yeah.
Yay.
So it was so much fun.
Aww.
But like, who has a dance at 3:30? And like,
I mean, middle schoolers. Yeah. That makes
yeah,
sense.
but I don't know. It's just really interesting timing you have to get her ready that fast in just a half hour. Like, woo,
Well,
here
see,
we go.
that's why when we were in middle school, we just go directly to the dance after class,
Yeah,
right?
but then you don't make it semi-formal where you have
Exactly,
to
that's what I'm
change. You
saying.
just make it like,
it's like a
I
normal
remember when I
dance.
was in junior high, I would go to the dances in like t-shirt and shorts, you know?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't change for it. You just,
Yeah, no, but this is like, there's a dress
That's so
code for this dance.
weird.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know. I just find that normal, weird for middle school. High school, yeah.
High school, yeah.
Middle
yeah.
school, I guess they're prepping them for it.
I
but
don't know. I don't know.
I'm glad she chose her cool outfit, though.
Yeah, it's so cool.
That's
I
awesome.
love it. I'm so stealing it because we're the same size. So
Oh, that's
I'm
awesome.
stealing it.
Good for you.
Yay. But that's what's got me in stitches.
Nice.
It's dancing. Dance. Oh, what's got you in stitches, Nicole?
Oh, I have the same along the lines of finding something to wear, but this is for Halloween.
Oh, what are you going as?
Yeah, so our work, we try to do a theme with our staff. We've got at least 5 staff members, and every year we have a theme, and it's fun. Last year I was Captain Hook because we did.
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
That was such a cute outfit. I
Yeah,
loved that.
It was fun, yeah, and that because we were Disney villains, right?
Ooh.
So we were toying around with so many different ideas. We thought of horror movie villains this time.
Oh.
Yeah. And at first I didn't want to be this character because I was like, I don't want this in my closet. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this
It's
actually
perfect.
would be fun because this is probably the one character I'm scared of more than any of the other characters.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to
it'd be so fun to dress up as
Pennywise.
clown.
Of course, I'm my biggest fear.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was looking at the costume with my kids, and they were like, "You're gonna be that?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's creepy." And like, okay. And then they were like, Mom, don't do the whole makeup. I go, why? It's like, because it's creepy. You can do the red part, but don't do the white part. But I still bought white and red from Target.
Yes, you did.
so-
That's awesome. That's awesome. I can't wait to see pictures. We'll have to post them on the socials.
I will.
Of you, yeah, in your outfit.
Yeah. What are you gonna be then?
I don't know. I might borrow my daughter's pink power suit and just be Barbie for Halloween. We'll see.
Sweet.
Yeah.
You can borrow my pirate costume if you want. Do you want it?
I might.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me
'cause
know, 'cause it's
I
sitting
do
in my
have
closet.
a Halloween party that I'm going to that I'm like nervous about because I'm
Aw.
antisocial and I'm going to a social event. It's going to be fun and I'm excited for it. And it's, just up the road from where I live. Our neighbors are hosting a big party for kind of the whole neighborhood and all their
Aw.
friends. And they have this really cool mansion. Like it looks like a Victorian mansion kind of thing that's like out here in the middle of nowhere.
That's so
So yeah,
cool.
so I'm excited. I just want to go see the house. I want to see what it
Yeah.
looks like on the inside.
I'm sure they'll decorate too.
Oh yes, they
that'll
do.
be
They
fun.
decorate.
Oh.
They decorate. They're very fun. So
Right on.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I have to get a costume. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
You'll find something.
Yeah, we'll
but if
figure
you
it
need to
out.
borrow something, I got tons because I love Halloween.
I
so.
know you do. Oh, so fun.
Well,
I love October.
me too. It's the best. It's the best month. But anyway, besides being your birthday.
Yes.
But yeah, so today,
Friday the 13th.
yes, we're diving into part 2
Oh,
of our
people eating people.
people eating people.
Oh,
but
goodness.
murdering people for it. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. But we're gonna definitely do your stitch.
Yeah, my stitch is really cool, but I do have some issues with
Some
it.
qualms.
So yeah, I do. I have some suggestions, but
Oh,
we'll
good.
get there.
Okay.
So, why don't we get there now? Are
Yeah.
we ready to get stitching?
I think so.
Let's get stitching. Okay, Stitchers. So today's stitch comes from, let me see what her name is.
What's her name?
Mushy, Mushyyy, Mushy on YouTube.
Mushy.
Yes. And first of all, her voice is so soothing.
Ooh.
And I love her accent. And I could just
Oh.
sit here and listen to her.
What kind of accent?
Do crochet. I think it's Indian.
Ooh.
But I could just sit there and listen to her talk and tell me about crochet all day long. It's so soothing. It's
love
so nice
that.
and relaxing. So Mushy, you're awesome to listen to. It's so much fun. She has this wonderful crochet pumpkin stitch.
Yes.
And it's basically 5 puff stitches and then you kind of do a single crochet together on the top to make them puff out and look like a pumpkin.
Nice.
And it's really cool. So you can find it on YouTube, Crochet Pumpkin Stitch Easy Tutorial by Mushy, Mushyyy.
Okay.
And the pumpkins look really cool. It turns out really nice. My issue is on the sides.
Uh-oh.
So I think it can be better because it's a little bit unfinished on the sides. So if you follow her tutorial, there is no kind of commonality going up the side. So I feel like we need to do if we did a double crochet border going up the sides, and I would suggest maybe doing 2 extra double crochets before you start the pumpkin stitch. So that would be
that you can
4
grab
more.
onto it.
That would be 4 more double crochets so that you would have a border of a double crochet going up. Because in that way, on the sides, if you follow her tutorial, the pumpkins that hang out on the sides don't really turn into pumpkins because there's nothing kind of squishing them together. Does that make sense?
That. Yeah, they're really wide.
They
compared to
get
the
really
other
wide
ones.
and stretched out because there's nothing like forming that edge for them to kind of push them and make them puff up like a pumpkin.
Yeah, it's just kind of a stretched out.
Right.
Area.
So I think if you could do a border of double crochets, and I would say do 2 double crochets and then start the pumpkin stitch and finish with 2 double crochets so that you have that kind of an edge that finishes it and fixes it all together. Another thing with the pattern that she does is that it's worked on the right side only. So you are cutting your yarn after every row.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, did I say wrong side? You work it on the right side only.
Right side. You said right.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay. My brain. Okay. So it's worked on the right side only. You are cutting your yarn after every line, which is fine. That's totally fine, but you will have a bunch of ends. So trick with that is make sure that when you get close to the end, you pull your end back in so that when you're stitching it on the right side, you stitch over the end. So you're sewing it in.
Well, that makes
I
sense.
did do that on mine because I did it once on this one row. You can see that I did it there.
Okay.
So I didn't think to do it because I'm learning the tutorial, trying to get it done so that I can have it to show Nicole for recording days. So, but other than that, those are my 2 suggestions. When you're working just one side, make sure that so you don't have all these ends to sew in, that you pull them back in and tuck them in. And I think if you start each row with a double crochet and end each row with a double crochet, that will make that pattern a lot. It'll give it a nice edge and a nice finish.
No, it makes sense.
Because I don't know what I would use this sample that I made for. Because it's just not finished. It doesn't look finished, right?
Yeah.
So I would maybe either curve it around and make it like a cuff.
Ooh.
And maybe put a vase.
Ooh, or a coffee cup holder.
A coffee, a mug, coffee cup holder or something. So that's what I would do with this one. So maybe I'll do that, and maybe a lucky listener will get this.
Yay!
Maybe one of our patrons will get this.
I love it.
We'll sew it together and make a little cuff, and you can put it like on a vase or on something, and have this little spooky vase holder,
pencil holder,
a pencil holder,
something.
Yeah, a little pumpkin pencil holder. That would be cute. Aww. So we'll do that. Just because the edging doesn't really come together, and if I sew that together, it'll work. But other than that, it's a beautiful puff stitch. So basically what you do for the pumpkins is that you'll do 5 puff stitches in so let me start the whole pattern. Let me talk you through the whole pattern. So you do she has you chain 9, and then you're going to do multiples of 6 after that. And then when you get to whatever length you want after the multiple of 6, you're going to chain 2, and then you're going to, in the 4th chain from the hook, you're going to double crochet all your way back.
Nice.
Okay. I would add 2 to that so that you can, or add 4 to that. I'm sorry. So it would be another +6 at the end, so that you can have that border of double crochet before you start the pumpkin stitches. Does that make sense?
Right.
Stitchers?
So 6 on the end, but you want to skip all that end though, that 4, right? Because
So when you come back on the 4th chain, that chain 3 at the beginning is going to act as a double crochet, and then you're going to double crochet all the way back.
Got it.
Yeah. And so when I followed her instructions, I wound up with 33 double crochets along the bottom.
Okay.
And then the first row, you're using your green or whatever color you're using for your stem. And then you're going to, chain 3, and then you're going to skip 2 chains, double crochet, chain 3, skip 2 chains, double crochet. So you have all these pockets of chain 3s. And in those pockets of chain 3s are where you're going to do your puff stitches.
Cool.
So you're going to do 5 puff stitches.
5. Wow.
5 puff stitches.
That's a lot.
So it's a yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop. So there's 4 of those. Yarn over, pull through all but the first loop on your hook, and then yarn over and pull through that first loop on your hook. Or yarn over, pull through 2 loops. That's what it winds up being. So then you do 5, and that's going to form your pumpkin. And then when you go back through on the next row with the pumpkin stitch, you're going to do 4 single crochet together. That's going to gather that pumpkin and form your stem, and it makes it puff out.
That's cool.
Okay. And then you make like this really cool stem on top, and you can see it right here, that it's a chain 4 and then a treble crochet that makes this really fun little stem. And then there's a whole bunch of steps that I'm not going to go through. You can watch her video, go through all those steps. But then, when you're doing the pumpkin tops, then you're making the next chain 3 spaces that you're going to put the next row of pumpkins on.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the pumpkins are just little, 5 together puff stitches. That makes this really cool thing. So I like it. I would suggest adding the borders to it so that it gives it some more structure, and make sure you fold your sides in so that you can crochet over them, and then you aren't stuck sewing in all your ends.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
Good job.
But Mushy, MUSHYY.
Why?
And her voice is so soothing. And if you guys enjoy her voice, let me know. 'Cause it's like butter. It's so nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
But little pumpkins.
I love it. It fits the season.
Yeah, it's
Yay.
the season.
Good job. And
I
I
think
love
it would
your
be
colors too.
Thank you. I think it would be fun, like a sweater.
Ooh.
You make like a pumpkin sweater doing this.
I like that.
Yeah.
That'd be cute. I'd see it as a sweater if the pumpkins were a little bit more spread out. I feel like they're a lot together.
They're a lot together.
Very clustered pumpkin.
It is a very cluster pumpkins. So it is.
But the colors are really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I know you always have trouble. You say you have trouble, but
I do have trouble. Well, I stole the colors from her.
Oh.
She did. She did orange and white and yellow pumpkins.
It's like an orange yellow. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gold.
Yeah. Good job.
Thank you.
I like your suggestions.
Yeah.
So if anybody does this.
Yeah, let us know. We want to see. Send us pictures. You can send them to theominousstitch@gmail.com, or you can comment on any of our social medias.
Yeah.
And we want to see
we
pictures
promise
of it.
we'll demo some of our
Yeah, we will get back to demoing. It's been we've had a lot
minute.
going. I know. It's been a hot minute, but we'll get back on the demos. I promise.
Yeah,
we'll get back on them.
we'll get there.
Yeah.
But good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So are we ready for story time?
No.
Nobody's ever ready for story. No.
I'm sure you all are that have morbid brains,
Morbid
and curiosities.
curiosities. Yeah.
But let's get into it.
It's story time.
Story time. Okay. Part 2 of True Cannibal Stories. Hey, again, I forgot to do this at the beginning of this whole thing. Listener discretion advised.
Yes, it is.
Highly warned. Do not let your kids listen to this. This is insane. This is like beyond insane. So don't let little ones listen, please. Okay. With that, we're going to an intense and not for the faint of heart. If you're a true crime junkie, you probably know both of my cases I'm going to go into today, but it's coming from us. So it's a little different because we're goofy, right?
Yeah.
We're going to get into the Gray Man, also known as the Werewolf of Wisteria, or the Brooklyn Vampire, or the Moon Maniac, or the Boogeyman.
The boogeyman.
These are all his names.
Dude, this guy, it sounds so scary and intense.
He's scary. He's
Ugh.
very scary. Hamilton Howard Fish was born May 19th, 1870. He was a Taurus. For y'all, you know.
I like that his name is Hamfish.
Hamfish, yes. And we'll get into why
Hamfish.
that is not going to be Hamfish soon.
No, he is Hamfish. But
Hamfish.
those are two very
Different meats.
but those are acceptable to eat. You can eat ham and you can eat fish.
Yes, you can.
You can't eat people, Mr. Hamfish.
Well, you didn't tell him early enough.
Well, yeah. I don't think I was alive when he was alive, so
Nope.
thank God for that. But
Nope, not at all. Yeah, so he was born to Randall Fish, who was 75 at this time.
Whoa, Randall.
And
what?
Ellen Frances Howell, who was 32.
Oh my God.
Do that math, everybody. Yeah. This was in
40 years, 40 something, 40 plus.
43.
Oh. that's almost my age. It is in between our
It
ages.
is in between our ages.
Ew, 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 ew.
Gross. Yes. He was born in Washington, D.C. And he was the youngest of 3 living children. And note, Fish's family had a history of mental illness. His mother had oral and or visual hallucinations. His uncle was diagnosed with mania. One of his brothers was put into a state mental hospital. A paternal half-brother suffered from schizophrenia. And his sister Annie was diagnosed with a quote-unquote mental affliction. So the odds were stacked against him.
Yeah, it seems like maybe they shouldn't have been reproducing in that family.
That's a lot of a tale as old as time, Angela.
Right? Yeah.
Now, 5 years after Fish was born, his father suffered a fatal heart attack in 1875. And because Ellen didn't know how to afford to raise her children at that point, she brought them to St. John's Orphanage in Washington. Not state, everybody. Washington, D.C. I got to point that out.
Yeah.
No Washington. Now, sadly, he was frequently physically abused here and was called Ham and Eggs. That was his nickname. Now, strangely, Fish began to look forward to the physical pain brought on by the beatings. He also changed his name to Albert after a dead sibling of his. So,
oh, wow.
his name, Albert Fish. Okay. By the age of 10, Fish's mother found a government job and removed Fish and his siblings from the orphanage. At this point, Fish found himself attracted to boys. And at the age of 12, he started dating a telegraph boy. But this boy turned Fish, warning, 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 onto some paraphilias. Do you know what a paraphilia is?
No.
It is a morbid sexual attraction that is not normal. Okay. So these two were urolagnia and coprophagia. So Angela,
Yeah.
do you want to guess what urolagnia is?
No.
All right. So that is drinking urine.
Oh.
And coprophagia is eating feces.
Oh, wow.
So these are sexual things that are different, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So Fish would also watch boys undress at the local public baths, and as a side thing, he wrote obscene letters to women who had correspondences in classified advertising and matrimonial agencies. Fun. Fun side thing. Yeah. Then in 1890, Fish, at the ripe age of 20, moved to New York City, where he became a male prostitute. And at this point was known for molesting and raping boys, mostly younger than the age of 6.
Oh.
Yeah, I have 2 boys, guys. This is not, I hated this whole thing. So, yeah. Now, 8 years later, he was wed to Anna Mary Hoffman, 19, because his mother arranged the whole thing. They ended up having 6 children together. 6.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, fast forward to 1910 when Fish met 19-year-old Thomas Bedden. Now, Wikipedia, guys, says Bedden, and other sites state his name was Kedden. I don't exactly know his name, so I'm going to refer him to Thomas. Okay, so just heads up. Now, he met him while working in Delaware. Even though Fish was still married at this time, Fish and Thomas started a sadomasochistic relationship. It is believed that Thomas was intellectually disabled. After dating for 10 days, Fish brought Thomas to an old farmhouse where he tied him up and tortured him for 2 weeks with the intention to kill him, cut his body up, and bring him home. But because it was August and thinking the hot weather would draw attention to the body, okay, this is another warning.
Yeah.
He ended up cutting off half his penis, pouring peroxide on the wound, wrapping it up with the Vaseline handkerchief, and said, "Peace." He just left him there. Now, side note, I didn't mention this. He was brought to like a wax museum at one point before all of this, did see the dissection of half a penis, and that got him very curious about, dissecting and body parts, mutilation. So there you go. January 1917, Anna left Fish for the handyman who was living at the Fish home.
Here's my thoughts. I think the handyman is the real dad of all the Fish
Probably.
kids.
Well, no, this is the crazy part. So Albert Fish did raise the children by himself, as she never returned to see them. So she left them all in his care.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Maybe they, ew.
But see, no. I'll get to it. But he actually didn't touch his kids. Like, he raised his kids. So that's the weird part. But she took everything. So he was living in a home with nothing with these 6 kids. But at this point, Fish's mental stability greatly diminished to the point where he, at one point, wrapped himself in a carpet and said he was following instructions of John the Apostle.
How? What?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
he also,
no.
at this point, was heavily into self-mutilation, thrusting needles into his groin and abdomen, hitting himself with a nail-studded paddle, and even inserting wool doused with lighter fluid into his nether regions and lighting it on fire.
Oh my God.
And for what we know, he never physically harmed or abused his children, like I said. But he did encourage them and their friends to smack him in the butt with a nail-studded paddle he used on himself. And his kids were like, "Oh, okay." Yeah,
My
sure.
kids are not allowed to go play at his house,
Nope,
man.
never.
Oh my gosh.
On top of all of this, he started toying with the idea of cannibalism. He would even serve entire meals made of raw meat for his family in hopes to suppress the desire for human flesh. Now,
I sound like Marge Simpson. I've been making that noise a lot this podcast. Just
well, what do you say to this?
I don't know.
It's hard. This is rough. Throughout this time, he was evaluated by psychiatric hospitals on a few occasions, which good, but each time he was declared sane and released back into society.
He's obviously not sane.
No, he's
I don't
not.
understand.
I don't. At this time, though, I'm sure in modern times they would have been like, "Yeah, no, you stay here.
Yeah.
Don't you go back into society." But well, in 1919, we know Fish stabbed an intellectually disabled boy in Georgetown, and sadly, he would target mentally disabled or African American children because he believed they would not be missed if he killed them.
Oh.
Yeah. When he did start murdering victims, he used what was called his implements of hell: a meat cleaver, a butcher knife, and a small handsaw. In 1924,
I can't.
I know,
help it.
it's hard. In 1924, Fish's psychosis kicked in more and still felt that God was commanding him to torture and sexually mutilate children.
It's frailty. Gross. Ew.
No, it's not. Frailty was telling him to kill the murderers, not murder children. That's gross.
Well, he thinks God is telling him to murder kids.
Yeah, that's not cool. Yeah. Now, the following crimes were not discovered to be done by Fish until after he was arrested for a crime which I will discuss soon. But the first murder victim chronologically Fish was convicted for was of 9-year-old Francis McDonnell in 1924. He failed to return home after playing with his friends in Staten Island, so a search was organized. They found his body hanging by a tree in a wooded area near his home. Now, they found him strangled with his own suspenders and sexually assaulted. In his autopsy, there were lacerations to his legs and abdomen, and they even found his left hamstring almost entirely stripped of its flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Francis's friends told police they saw him being taken by an elderly man with a gray mustache. When this was told to Francis's mother, Anna, she recalled seeing the same man earlier, and she told reporters, "He came shuffling down the street, mumbling to himself and making queer motions with his hands. I saw his thick gray hair and his drooping gray mustache. Everything about him seemed faded and gray, and thus he was nicknamed as the Gray Man."
Mm-hmm.
In 1927, 3-year-old Billy Beaton and his 12-year-old brother were playing in their apartment hallway in Brooklyn with 4-year-old William or Billy Gaffney. The 12-year-old went back to his apartment, and when he came back out, both the little boys were gone. They were able to locate Billy Beaton on the roof, but couldn't find Billy Gaffney. When asked where he went, Beaton responded, "The boogeyman took him." Gaffney's body was never found. Later, when Fish was arrested, Joseph Meehan, an operator on a Brooklyn trolley, recognized Fish's picture in a newspaper. He said he saw him February 11th, 1927, when he was on a trolley trying to quiet a little boy with him. The boy was crying for his mother, and Fish was dragging him on and off the trolley. Meehan's description of the little boy was a match to Billy Gaffney. 3 years old.
And nobody
said anything.
Yeah. While this kid is like, I want my mommy. And this man is like dragging him around.
Yeah, nobody said anything. And now that's the hard part, because you're in a big city and you're like, maybe he's a grandfather that's like trying to get him to places where his mom's doing. But you never know. That's the hard part.
You never know. But like, if
I know.
I feel like I would you wouldn't make a call because I don't have phones in that time.
Nope.
But I feel like you
would say something.
Go get somebody that's in charge of wherever you're at and say, hey, this kid is distressed. What's going on? I might go up and be like, hey,
is he okay?
Yeah. I mean, well, the guy is going to be like, yeah, the kid's okay. I would talk to the kid.
Yeah.
But, oh my gosh.
Yeah, poor Billy. Now, when Fish was approached about the abduction of Billy Gaffney by his mother, Elizabeth Gaffney, at the Sing Sing prison in New York later, he refused to talk to her. Fish, however, wrote a confession letter to his attorney. If you guys want to read it, you can find it online, but I really don't want to go into all the details because this whole case is already messy enough. The letter is so detailed and hard to fathom how someone could do such a thing. But to recap it, he took Billy to an abandoned house where he tortured and murdered the poor little boy, then cut off most his body parts. He threw his head and limbs along a road going to North Beach where there were pools of water that were 3 to 4 feet deep. He then brought the other body parts home with him, cooked them, ate them as if it were a roast. The parts he couldn't chew, he discarded in the toilet. Now, I'm telling you, this letter is way more detailed and it makes you, it's gross. Then in 1928, Fish found an advertisement in the Sunday edition of the New York World where 18-year-old Edward Budd was looking for a job in the country. He even listed his address in Manhattan, gave the whole address. So Fish, under false pretenses of hiring Budd, went to visit the Budd family. He intended to torture and kill Edward. He promised to hire him and his friend and would send for them in a few days, but Fish did not show up. Fish then sent an apology telegram and said he'd be there at a later date and did come by, but met Edward's younger sister. 10-year-old Grace, or Gracie Budd. He then, I know. He then had his sights set on her instead of her older brother and convinced her parents to let Gracie accompany him to a party for his quote-unquote niece's birthday that evening. They approved.
No.
But Fish ended up taking her to an abandoned house he already picked out in Irvington, New York. Fish ended up strangling, decapitating, and dismembering Gracie and ate her entire body. This is Grace, by the way.
I'm gonna cry. I don't like it.
This is the advertisement for her missing.
Oh, why don't let your kids go with strangers, people?
Seriously. You'd think Fish
Oh.
would immediately be fingered, right, for her disappearance because she disappeared right after he took her.
Right.
But strangely, no. This is the theme to all these stories.
I don't understand
He
this.
wasn't
people.
even an initial suspect.
Why he took her?
I know. I can't even find what alibi he used. He was if he was questioned by the police. But they ended up arresting 66-year-old Superintendent Charles Edward Pope in 1930 because his estranged wife pointed the finger at him. After spending
Oh my gosh.
after spending 108 days in jail, Pope was released because he was found not guilty. Duh. Now Gracie's case grew cold, sadly.
Mm-hmm.
Then Fish made the mistake of sending an anonymous letter to Gracie's parents in 1934. Her mother was illiterate, and so she had her son read it. This is another letter I'd rather not read to you at all. Seriously, again, this guy is beyond off the rails. But if you are morbidly curious, you can find it on the interwebs, so you go look for it if you want. But now, basically, again, I'm going to sum up some of this. Fish tells her he visited their home on June 3rd, 1928, brought pot cheese and strawberries for lunch. Gracie even sat in his lap and kissed him. Right then and there, he made up his mind to eat her and came up with that party lie. And he took her to that abandoned home. And while Gracie was outside picking wildflowers, Fish undressed as to not get blood on him. He called her in, and she was shocked to see his naked body. He grabbed her and strangled her while she put up a fight. He then cut her into small pieces, cooked them, and ate her body over the course of 9 days. And to cap it all off, as if to bring her family any sense of comfort after these horrendous details, he writes how he didn't have sex with her and she died a virgin. Yeah, he ended it with that. I was like, wow. Yeah, that's great. You ate her body. Now, what caught him?
I can't even.
I know.
talk. I feel so sick. Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I know. This is a pretty gross one. So what caught him? The envelope Fish used for the letter had a small hexagonal emblem with the letters NYPCBA, which stands for New York Private Chauffeurs Benevolent Association. When the police found the group's location, a janitor mentioned an employee had taken some envelopes home to his boarding house room and left them behind when he moved out. The tenant who was living there, Albert Fish. Fish had told his landlady that a check was to arrive soon for his room and that he was going to return. He left for a few days. So Detective William King waited for him. And sure enough, Fish returned and he willingly agreed to go to police headquarters for questioning, but then pulls out a razor blade. Remember how old he is? He's pretty old at this time.
Yeah.
Detective King easily disarmed Fish and took him to headquarters. There, he didn't even deny murdering Gracie, just mentioned he intended to murder her brother, Edward. He also confessed to dozens of other children's murders, but only 3 children, including Gracie, could be concretely proven to be Fish's victims. So Fish's murder trial for Gracie Budd started about March 11th, 1935. The defense pled insanity and went into how Fish's obsession with religion and sacrificial offers was why he did what he did. Psychiatrist Frederick Wortham even detailed Fish's cannibalism, which he then linked in Fish's mind the act of communion.
Don't justify this. Like,
Right?
I understand that it's their job. They have to defend him. I get it, but just don't. There's
Gross,
nothing
right?
defensible about this.
No.
Nothing.
It's gross.
You can't explain this away. It's yeah. Oh man.
Fish admitted to hearing voices that told him to kill children. And in the end, after being questioned about Fish's life by the defense, Wortham simply answered, he is insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
But despite bringing in psychiatrist after psychiatrist to support this theory, the jury felt he needed to be executed for the crimes he committed. So the verdict, sane and guilty, and the judge sentenced him to death by electrocution. His sentence was to be carried out on January 16th, 1936, and when he was getting connected to the electrodes, his last words were, "I don't even know why I'm here."
What do you mean you don't even know why you're here? What do you mean, you sick
Angela's
SOB?
mad.
I'm very mad. He like upsets me deeply.
Oh,
Like,
I told you these are not for the faint of heart.
And I am of the faint
I'm
of heart.
sorry. Told you we're gonna do some crazy true crime.
Oh my gosh.
Well, he's dead.
Good.
Yeah, but still, poor little children.
But
Which leads me to my last and next case. Which this one's really rough too.
oh, Nicole.
And you all know him.
She's trying to kill me, man.
I am.
Okay.
We're gonna go into Jeffrey Dahmer,
Mm-hmm.
and you all know this. This case is been talked about so much in the media, TV, movies, podcasts, everything. I'm sure you've seen. There's like Netflix documentaries. There's this new one that's coming out on Fox. So
Yeah. Here's the thing. I know like the name.
but you don't know
I
about him.
vaguely know what he's done. That's all I ever wanted to know.
Well, too
like
bad.
I know I'm gonna know more now. But like it's so disturbing.
It's
to
so
me.
disturbing.
So I'm gonna be like, really? What? I mean, a lot of it's gonna be shocking to me because I don't know.
This isn't bonkers. I still, these true crime cases with serial killers like this, like I can't fathom. Like this is real. This sounds like a movie. All of these like crazy movies, but they're not. They're real, sadly. But okay, so I'm not
Okay.
going to deep dive as much as everybody else does probably about him. I'm going to touch up on a lot of things, definitely the cannibalistic aspects because that's the theme today. Sorry. So here we go. May 21st, 1960. No, May 21st, Angela, what's that day?
That's your birthday.
Yeah, guess who else was born?
No, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born May 21st in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Boo. Now, there's a little debate on what type of upbringing he had, but his father ended up being a research chemist. So he was smart. His mom was a teletype machine instructor, but she was known to be very depressed and a hypochondriac. At one point, she did attempt suicide. I think twice, actually. When Dahmer was about 4 years old, he watched his father remove animal bones from beneath their home, and his father saw how oddly thrilled he was by the sound the bones made. And he took to dead animals with a passion. He would see animal bones and call them his fiddlesticks. He would then search for more animal bones and even explored the bodies of live animals to figure out how their skeletal structure was made. In 1968, you are Marge.
I am.
In 1968, Dahmer started collecting the skeletons and bones of small animals like chipmunks and squirrels, as well as large insects. He even had some preserved in jars of formaldehyde. These relics were stored in a small hut that was just a short walk from his home in Ohio. Then, when Dahmer was 10, he asked his father about what happens to bones in bleach. His father thought, thinking he had a fascination with science just like him and chemicals, so he enthusiastically demonstrated how to safely bleach and preserve animal bones. And Dahmer used this new practice in his bone collecting. He would dissect roadkill and then bury them beside the hut, sometimes using the skulls as displays on top of makeshift crosses on the graves. Throughout high school, Dahmer was seen as intelligent but received average grades and would drink alcohol during the day in class, starting his crazy downhill spiral of alcoholism.
He would drink in class?
He would drink in class and call it his medicine.
Oh my gosh.
When he hit puberty, he did know he was gay, but started fantasizing about dominating and controlling a submissive male partner. And then it became morbid when he fantasized rendering unconscious a male jogger he was attracted to and then sexualizing him. So he ended up waiting in some bushes with a baseball bat for the jogger. Thankfully, on that particular day, the jogger did not pass by. Dahmer later admitted that this was his first attempted attack to render someone submissive. By Dahmer's junior year, his grades had declined and so did his parents' marriage. They ended up divorcing, with his father Lionel moving out into a motel in early 1978. That same year, Dahmer managed to graduate from high school, but then soon after, despite court order, his mother Joyce moved out of the family home to live with relatives in Wisconsin and took his younger brother David with her. So he was living alone at home for a little bit here.
Huh.
Gee. 3 weeks after graduation, at the age of 18, Dahmer picked up a bare-chested hitchhiker named Stephen Mark Hicks, almost 19 years of age, who was on his way to a rock concert. Dahmer told Hicks they could swing back to his home to have some drinks before, and that Dahmer had the house to himself. And Hicks agreed. Dahmer was aroused by Hicks, but Hicks talked about ladies, so he knew he didn't have a chance. They spent at least a few hours drinking and listening to music when Hicks wanted to go, but Dahmer didn't want him to leave. So he picked up a 10-pound dumbbell and bludgeoned Hicks from behind. When Hicks fell unconscious, Dahmer proceeded to strangle him to death with the bar of the dumbbell.
Oh my gosh.
After stripping Hicks' clothes off and pleasuring himself above him, he dragged Hicks' body to the basement. Now, after a good night's rest, which a lot of serial killers seem to do, Dahmer dissected Hicks' body and buried the remains in his backyard. But several weeks later, he decided to unearth the remains and pared the flesh from the bones. He ended up dissolving his flesh in acid and crushing the bones with a sledgehammer into little tiny slivers. He dissolved the flesh. The dissolved flesh went into the toilet, and the crushed bones went into the woodland area behind the family home. Okay. Dahmer was accepted into Ohio State University in hopes to major in business, but his alcoholism got worse, and he failed pretty much much every course except riflery, where he got a B-.
Oh my gosh.
He dropped out after that first semester and was forced to enlist in the U.S. Army by his father. He was a medical specialist. Imagine that. And was deployed to West Germany in 1979 as a combat medic. Now, his alcoholism was still rampant, and so he was actually honorably discharged in 1981. What's crazy is his superiors thought he was unsuitable for the military service, but wouldn't have any problems as a civilian. So,
sure.
Whoops.
They're like, well, it's not our problem.
Yep.
We're not in civilian life.
Exactly.
So let him go there.
Ashamed to go back to his father, Dahmer traveled to Florida, found a job in a deli, and lived in a motel. He spent most of his money on alcohol, so he was evicted because he couldn't pay his rent. He did end up living on the beach while working, but soon he did call his dad and ask to return to Ohio. Now, he was living with his father and now stepmother until later that year was arrested for disorderly conduct. Fed up, Dahmer was sent to live with his grandmother in Wisconsin because he did love her and respected her. So Dahmer's father thought it would help him change for the better. But he was arrested again while drunk for indecent exposure. He still lived with his grandmother. He did pick himself back together, got a job, but he began frequenting gay bars and bathhouses. He did have sexual relations with some of them, but he was known to hate how they moved. He didn't want them moving. So even after...
Oh, that's so sick.
It's gross.
Yeah.
So even after he was arrested, he mentioned, "I trained myself to view people as objects of pleasure instead of as people." So then in June 1986, he began sneaking partners sleeping pills inside their drinks. He would then do this thing when they were knocked out, right? There were complaints, and his membership to the bathhouses were revoked. In November of 1987, Dahmer persuaded 25-year-old Stephen Twomey to come back to his hotel room at the Ambassador Hotel in Milwaukee. Dahmer was convinced he just wanted to take him back, drug him, and quote-unquote explore his body. But that following morning, Dahmer awoke on top of Twomey's dead body with his chest crushed in. Dahmer claimed he had no memory of killing Twomey and was in shock. So after stuffing his body into a suitcase and bringing it back to his grandmother's house...
Oh my gosh!
He later decapitated Twomey's body, removed the arms and legs, and then filleted the bones before dicing up the flesh into manageable pieces. The flesh went into plastic bags, and the bones were pounded into small splinters with a sledgehammer again, just like his other body that he did, inside a sheet. It took a matter of 2 hours to dismember Twomey completely. 2 hours. Everything went into the trash except the head. Dahmer bleached the skull and did some pretty gross things with it before he pulverized it. Yeah. Dahmer at this point had an uncontrollable desire to repeat his patterns and brought 2 more victims to his grandmother's house without her even knowing, for crying out loud.
Poor Granny.
Yeah, he repeated the dismemberment and skull process. April of 1988. He did lure another victim to his home where Dahmer drugged his coffee, but Dahmer's grandmother called out to him and she could tell he was not alone, so he was able to drive him as he lay unconscious to the county general hospital. He got away, thankfully.
Wow.
Yeah, thanks, Grandma.
Oh, what a lucky duck.
Yes,
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
sure he counts that, blessings every day. September of 1988. Dahmer's grandmother kicks him out of the house due to his heavy drinking and bringing young men to the house late at night. And she also smelled funny and foul smells from the basement and garage. Gee, Grandma, he didn't ask what those were. Now, Dahmer moved into a one-bedroom apartment at this point. Only a couple days later, Dahmer was arrested for drugging and sexually fondling a 13-year-old boy he lured in the pretext of posing for photographs. He did plead guilty, but claimed the boy appeared much older. And at this time, Dahmer's attorney had him undergo a series of psychological evaluations prior to the court hearing. It was concluded that Dahmer harbored deep feelings of alienation. That was it. The second evaluation revealed Dahmer was impulsive, suspicious of others. That's it, too. And apparently, back in 1987, he was diagnosed with a schizoid personality disorder, but nothing came about of that.
I don't.
Yep.
It's like, it's the common. I don't understand how people can. I don't know. I don't.
Words.
I just don't. I don't, people.
Nobody does.
Okay.
March of 1989. He moved back in with his grandmother, where he then murdered another victim in that home, 24-year-old Anthony Sears. Because he found him exceptionally attractive, he was the first victim in which Sears kept some of his body parts, which he placed in his work locker.
What? He put body parts in his work locker?
In his work locker. He kept them there. He coveted them there.
Oh,
Later,
no.
when he moved to his own place in 1990, he brought them back to his new home. Yeah. Right before moving, Dahmer was sentenced to 5 years probation and 1 year in the House of Correction for that stunt he pulled with a 13-year-old, with work release to keep his current job. Despite this, Dahmer still lured men back to his apartment and killed them. Like, he's on probation, and he's like, no, I don't care. His third victim in his new home, 22-year-old Ernest Miller, he ended up slashing his neck. He posed his nude body in suggestive photos, decapitated him in his bathtub, then wrapped his heart, liver, biceps, and portions of flesh from his legs in plastic bags, then placed him in the freezer for later consumption. The remaining flesh and organs were boiled in soy-lax, which rendered them into a jelly-like substance, and he was able to preserve the skeleton in bleach. He put Miller's head in the fridge before stripping it of its flesh and then painted and coated it with enamel.
Oh, my gosh.
He continued his horrific murders without any notice by the law. And then in 1991, he performed an experiment on 19-year-old Errol Lindsay, in which he lured him into his apartment, drugged him, then drilled a hole in his skull through which he injected hydrochloric acid with a baster. After some time, Lindsay did wake and say, "I have a headache. What time is it?"
Oh, my God.
So he's still alive, everybody.
Nicole.
Dahmer ended up drugging him again and strangling him to death, dismembering him, and placed his skin in a solution of cold water and salt for several weeks in hopes to permanently retain it. The skin was disposed later because apparently it became too frayed and brittle.
Oh, man.
All the while, in 1991, tenants of the Oxford apartments did complain to the building's manager about foul smells and extremely loud noises like that of a chainsaw coming from Dahmer's apartment. Dahmer made excuse after excuse. The first one was his freezer broke, causing all his food to be spoiled and smelled bad. Later, when asked again about the smells, he said several of his tropical fish died and he would take care of it.
Oh, man.
And they believed him.
It's people keep believing these
Uh-huh.
crazy people, and like,
Isn't that the theme of a story, right? They just help him and they don't do anything. And it gets even crazier, Angela.
oh.
Still, Dahmer kept on killing without getting caught. Dahmer got close, though, May 26, 1991, when Dahmer brought home 14-year-old Konorak Synthesomphone, and he was a Laos boy, who reluctantly returned with him to his apartment to pose for nude photos. But Dahmer drugged him, and before he fell unconscious, Dahmer knew he had seen the dead body of Tony Hughes in his bedroom.
Oh,
So there's a dead body in there,
right.
and he's unconscious. Now, Dahmer drilled a single narrow hole into the crown of Synthesophone's skull and injected hydrochloric acid. He then left him to drink at a bar and to purchase more alcohol. So he's sitting in his apartment. He left. When he returned in the early hours of May 27th, Synthesophone was sitting naked on the corner outside the apartment building. 3 young women were trying to help him, and Dahmer said it was his drunk boyfriend and tried to take him back to his apartment.
Oh my gosh.
But the ladies had already called the police. When they arrived, Dahmer again calmly explained they had too much to drink following a fight they had. And he said, like, he does this all the time.
Oh my gosh.
The 3 women kept trying to intervene and knew something was up. They even pointed out there was blood on his private areas and he was bleeding from his rectum. And it looked like he was trying to struggle against Dahmer. But the police completely ignored the women and even told them to mind their own business.
F&A. Like, seriously, this pisses me off so much.
Remember the
I'm
misogyny we were talking
so
about?
mad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they were like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, women. Go away. He even said, like, mind your business.
I'm sorry for the loud noises. This is so upsetting me. I'm livid. I need to like punch somebody.
Punch me, please.
No, I won't punch you. I'm not gonna punch anybody, but like I want to punch those cops.
Oh yeah,
just like
this is bad. No, I'm telling you,
because
because then the fire department arrived, tried to examine Synthesophone for injuries, and provided him a yellow jacket. And one of the crew thought he did need treatment. He was like, "We need to take him into the hospital."
Dude, he's bleeding.
The police told them to leave.
What the hell, police?
These cops were like, "We don't care."
What the hell?
Now, another
Oh my
police
God.
officer arrived at the scene, and they all led Dahmer and Synthesophone back to Dahmer's apartment. Dahmer then...
There's a dead body in there. I should have made her hit her microphone.
I was like, yeah. So get this. So Dahmer shows photos to the police, like the ones that he took of him earlier, saying, like, look, we're lovers. We have we're doing this for fun. Even one officer peeked inside Dahmer's bedroom, but completely missed the dead body on the floor somehow.
Oh, what?
They left.
This is insane.
Yeah, they left and filed the case as a domestic dispute.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Good times.
Oh, no.
When left alone, Dahmer injected more hydrochloric acid into Synthesophone's brain, which killed him.
Yeah.
Dahmer called in sick the next day and dismembered the bodies, but keeping both Hugh's, remember the one on the ground,
Right.
and Synthesophone's skulls. He kept them. Now, within the following 2 months, I just kind of had to summarize this because it's the same story over and over. Dahmer murdered 4 more victims. And he was fired from his job because he kept calling in sick because he had to.
He had to dismember all these
Exactly.
Oh, my gosh.
July 22nd, 1991. Dahmer approached a few men and offered $100 to pose for nude photos, drink beer, and to keep him company. 32-year-old Tracy Edwards agreed. When they were in Dahmer's bedroom, he slapped handcuffs on Edwards' one wrist and was unable to get the other one on. Dahmer was also holding a large knife. But Edwards was able to convince Dahmer that he was his friend and he was not going to run away. And after some kind of strange things in the living room of Dahmer having momentary lapses of concentration and even chanting to himself, Edwards knew he had to do something. So he punches him in the face and runs outside. It's like, boom, and out. Edwards flagged down 2 officers who followed him back to Dahmer's apartment because they couldn't get the handcuffs off of him. Now, even though Edwards said Dahmer had a large knife, Dahmer made no comment about it and said the key to the handcuffs is in his bedside dresser. He tries to go get them, but the officers were like, no, don't you move. And one of them goes in and gets his handcuff key. But he also notices Polaroid photos, many of which were Dahmer's victims in various stages of dismemberment. He shows them to his partner. They're like, yep, these are real. And once Dahmer saw this, he tried to fight the officers to resist arrest. They overpowered him, handcuffed him, and called for backup. At this time, one of the officers opens the fridge and found a freshly severed head of a black male on the bottom shelf.
Yep.
Dahmer at this point muttered, "For what I did, I should be dead."
Yeah.
Yeah. This is where it gets for him. I'm mad.
Okay.
So when the Milwaukee Police's Criminal Investigation Bureau came in, they found 4 severed heads in the kitchen, blood drippings in the tray at the bottom of the fridge, 2 human hearts, and a portion of arm muscle wrapped in plastic bags. In the freezer, they found an entire torso, a bag of human organs, and flesh stuck to the ice. In Dahmer's bedroom and closet, they found a total of 7 skulls, some painted, some bleached. Then in the other parts of the apartment, they found 2 entire skeletons, a pair of severed hands, 2 severed and preserved penises, a mummified skull, and in the 57-gallon drum just sitting in his room, 3 dismembered torsos dissolving in acid. Now, after being interrogated, Dahmer waived his right to a lawyer and confessed that he had created this horror and it only makes sense I do everything to put an end to it. He admitted to murdering 16 men since 1987 in Wisconsin and Stephen Hicks in Ohio in 1978. He also admitted to engaging in necrophilia with several of his victims' bodies. He confessed having consumed the hearts, livers, biceps, and portions of thigh of 3 victims he killed at the Oxford Apartments and another victim at another location. When asked why he did this, he said it was due to curiosity and added, I suppose in an odd way, it made me feel they were even more a permanent part of me.
You are not... bad joke in my head. You are what you eat.
Oh,
No.
I forgot to start this whole thing. 2 cannibals are eating a clown. One cannibal says to the other, does this taste funny to you?
Stop it.
I wanted to start with that, but I forgot. So there you go. I made her snort. All right.
I don't know if I'm laughing or crying right now. I was like so upset. Okay.
Oh, then when asked why he preserved so many skulls and two entire skeletons, he replied he had been in the process of constructing a private altar of victim skulls, which he had intended to display on the black table located in his living room, and upon which he had photographed the bodies of many of his victims. He even went on to say the altar was to be dedicated to himself, and the altar would be a place for meditation where he could draw a sense of power.
Gosh. It's so sick. Like, it's
very
so
sickening.
sick. How are people wired like that? It's so sick.
They're not wired. That's the problem. January 30th, 1992. Dahmer was tried in Milwaukee for 15 counts of first-degree murder. The attorneys debated if Dahmer suffered from a mental or personality disorder and if it was insanity due to the necrophilic drive. But prosecution argued he was sane when he committed the murders, that he was calculating and a cunning individual. And forensic psychiatrist Park Dietz argued Dahmer went to great lengths to be alone with his victims, to have no witnesses, and that his crimes were not impulsive.
No, they weren't impulsive. And I don't think it matters at this point because, like, obviously he's done all of these things.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't matter why. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter why. He did it.
But in court,
no,
no, it's crazy.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I agree. I totally agree. But
I don't know why I'm yelling at you.
in court, they got to do it. That's crazy.
No.
He also noted Dahmer identified with the villains of The Exorcist 3, which was playing when Edwards came to his apartment, and Return of the Jedi, particularly the level of power they possessed. Others went on the stand to agree with Dietz, and the trial lasted for 2 weeks. On February 15th, Dahmer was ruled sane, but each of the 15 counts of murder, 2 jurors signified their dissent. I don't know why. The trial was postponed, and on February 17th, Dahmer addressed the court with a statement he prepared himself.
Oh, God.
He basically said he did not desire freedom and wished for his own death. He also believed his behavior was due to mental disorders and understands why society would never forgive him, but he hoped God would.
Nope. No.
This is going to make you very mad. So Dahmer was sentenced to life imprisonment plus 10 years upon the first 2 counts. The remaining 13 counts carried a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment plus 70 years. Dahmer's father and stepmother were there, and they were able to have a 10-minute private meeting before he was taken away. He was tried later for Stephen Hicks, and he pleaded guilty. In jail, Dahmer was able to get a copy of the Bible and devoted himself to Christianity and became a born-again Christian.
No.
His father.
No.
I knew you'd be mad at that.
No.
His father did urge him at the same time to read creationist books from the Institution of Creation Research. He was baptized in May of 1994.
I'm going to throw up.
I know. July 3rd, 1994. An inmate attempted to slash Dahmer's throat with a razor embedded in a toothbrush, but only received superficial wounds. Dahmer's opinion was he was ready to accept any punishment by his fellow inmates and even told his mother in a phone call he didn't care if anything happened to him. November 28th, 1994. Dahmer was found severely bludgeoned about the head and the face in the prison gym bathroom floor. His head had also been repeatedly struck against the wall. Dahmer was still alive when found, but died when rushed to a nearby hospital 1 hour later. From Dahmer's wishes in his will, his body was cremated. When Dahmer's mother, Joyce, was interviewed, she said, "Now is everybody happy? Now that he's bludgeoned to death, is that good enough for everyone?" Well, the response of Dahmer's victims' families were mixed. Some actually celebrated, but others were sad, like Catherine Lacey, mother of Oliver Lacey, whose head was found in Dahmer's fridge. She responded, "The hurt is worse now because he's not suffering like we are." So in conclusion of all this, lastly, the Oxford apartments where Dahmer murdered 12 of his victims was demolished in November of 1992. What I know of now, the site is just a vacant lot. And in 1996, a group of Milwaukee businessmen raised more than $400,000 to purchase all the items Dahmer used for his crimes, including blades, saws, handcuffs, and his refrigerator. They ended up destroying them in an effort to distance the city from the horrors of Dahmer's actions and the ensuing media circus surrounding his trial, according to biography.com.
Okay. That's fine.
Right?
That's fine.
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah. And it's good that they demolished the apartment because I'm sure there would be so many sick people that are like, I want to live in Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment, or I want to go destroy it and do all kinds of
so many different things. But yeah, no, they're like, nope, we got to tear it down now. So there you go. That was in a nutshell, dude. There's so much about.
I believe that it was in a nutshell. Thank you for making that one in a nutshell for me.
You're welcome.
I've been dreading knowing stuff about Dahmer for a long time, and true crime kills me.
It's like fascinating to read, but having to do it's tough, man. I tell you that all the time. So just a heads up, just so that you as our stitchers know, we always talk about like we need to do more true crime, but what I like to do usually is link it to paranormal activity, right? So
right.
When it's just like straight up true crime,
it's hard, man.
It's
hard, and
but morbidly fascinating.
I don't understand how people can do that to people. I will never understand it.
Oh no. Because
it's-
again, they're just there's no soul. There's like something's happening in there that like there's no
it hurts
it's so much disconnect.
And like it's even more upsetting when they get chance after chance after chance and people just like ignore.
Have you noticed that was my theme throughout all of them pretty much?
People just ignore the signs and they don't want to see what's happening and they don't want to stop it.
Terrible
or speak
police,
up
man.
And just,
like
oh my god,
I can't believe you missed a dead body in a room. So
it's upsetting.
Yeah.
All right, but we're done now.
We're done. Hey, no more cannibal stories. We're done.
We made it through. Okay, Stitchers. So here we go. If you want to reach out to us and give me some words of encouragement because my soul is hurting right now, you can email us at theominousstitch@gmail.com. You can also jump over to podbean.com and see any show notes that we have for this episode or any previous episodes, any pictures, any stitches that we do, anything. You can go there and see what we got going on. You can also become a patron and help us keep this thing going. On our Podbean site, there's a little button you can click on the upper right-hand right-hand corner that says Become a Patron. If you're on your phone, it is a little red button that you can click on to help you become a patron and help support our podcast and keep us going. Jump on any of our social medias and see any pictures or interact with us in any way possible, because we love our Stitchers and we want to talk to you guys. You guys make us happy, and you're the reason why we do this podcast. Okay. Are we ready for movie time?
So I got to throw up in my mouth there.
Okay.
Yes. Let's move on. We are going to do
Hannibal. It's movie time.
movie time. This week's movie review, Hannibal, released in 2001, IMDb rating of 6.8 stars, and the synopsis. Living in exile, Dr. Hannibal Lecter tries to reconnect with now disgraced FBI agent Clarice Starling and finds himself a target for revenge from a powerful victim.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to mention during story time, when I mentioned this during the music break, is I've been crocheting this whole time that Nicole's been telling me stuff, because I need to do it. So like, I understand why people listen to true crime and crochet, because you need to like keep your hands going.
You got to keep something
it does work
focused
well.
on something else, right?
It does work well that way. And it kept me from truly sobbing and vomiting in my mouth. But speaking of sobbing and vomiting in my mouth, let's talk about Hannibal.
This movie is a far cry from The Silence of the Lambs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I love Julianne Moore,
Yes.
but she's not Starling, and that just ruined the whole chemistry for me.
It did ruin everything,
Yeah.
right? So I read about this. So Jodie Foster was approached to do this movie, but her reasoning was she was working on a different movie at that time, which actually it ended up not even working out. But I think that was a good excuse for her, because she knew that this movie wasn't the same director,
Yeah.
and it was, to me, it was a money grab. It was a cash
Yeah.
grab.
Yeah.
So it's a number sequel.
It's
They got 5 Oscars. We can do this again.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to do it. So I applaud her for just saying no, because she's got morals for it.
Yeah. And it totally just messes up her character big
Totally
time.
messes
and
up.
it's so freaking upsetting. Because, like, okay, first of all, we're going back into the whole misogyny thing. This is, like, way more exaggerated in this movie, where she's in command. Her whole career starts crumbling because she's in command of something that goes wrong, because, spoiler alert, the men don't want to listen to her. The stupid cop didn't stand down when he was supposed to. And then they blame the whole thing on her.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous, because she did exactly what she should. She didn't kill the baby, which is amazing.
No, she shot like perfectly.
And she got shot
in the
many
stomach,
times and was able to not only rescue the baby and save the baby, but diffuse the situation before that crazy mama started killing more people. So, I mean, to me, she didn't do anything wrong. She absolutely didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, no.
She wanted to.
She did her job. And she even said it was the cop. And they were like, again, that misogynistic approach.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was you. You did everything.
Yeah,
like,
you
no.
were in charge. Like, no. Yeah, she
told
was in
everyone
charge.
to back it down.
And then the cop wouldn't listen to her.
He didn't listen to her.
Yeah, so whatever.
Whatever. But you like you said, Julianne Moore is a great actress. But
she's not Starling. That's
she's
the only
not.
problem. She did fine. She did
fine.
great. She's not Starling.
No, Jodie Foster will forever be Starling. And then Hannibal's character got like it just changed him too in a way. It was weird. And then the violence that ensued was like not, I don't know. It wasn't as poetic justice as it was in this. I guess at the end it is, but this movie was just not the same. I was so frustrated.
It's not the same. They took the story, they made it very grotesque and very exaggerated.
Yep.
And instead of the Silence of the Lambs, where it was more psychological, and you imagined most of the horror that went on.
Sure. They're more visual with it here.
This one is insanely visual. Yeah. It's like, we're gonna show you how he kills people and all that stuff.
Yeah, and so Ray Liotta has to play this just terrible character, And if you haven't seen it, go see it, but we're going to spoil it. I don't care. So he gets it in the end, thankfully.
Yeah.
That's the only kind of justice you kind of get in this, like, just like in the last one where he was chasing down his, the doctor that was, you know, terrible.
Yeah.
He chases down him. But again, though, there's like a lot of holes in this. Like,
it's not a sexual okay, that made me upset too. It's not a sexual relationship between Lecter and Clarice.
No,
it's not. It never was.
No. And then how does he get around though? How did he travel? Like, how is this like most wanted FBI, you know?
Well,
like,
because he stole IDs and he keeps changing his name. So like
guess,
at the end of Silence of the Lambs, he stole an ID.
Right, but he still looks the same when
he
he's
looks
traveling.
The same, yeah, absolutely.
Like he didn't change anything about when he like at the end he escapes, right?
Yeah.
He looks exactly the same.
He does look exactly the same.
And he cuts his hand. And I'm sure like
all
the FBI people told like, you know, like, hey, APB, there's this, you know, most wanted criminal out there without a hand. And he gets on a plane.
It's insane how he stayed free for as long as he's stayed free. I mean, he laid low and moved to Europe.
Sure.
But like he didn't really lay low because we know that he killed his old doctor.
Right. And he's killing people.
Yeah.
This movie was so silly. And then the whole, like, it was his old victim that chased him down and they're raising pigs to eat people. That was so absurd.
Yeah.
That was so silly. I don't know. This movie was just over the top and it didn't hold well. And I didn't like that. I was sad.
Yeah.
It made me very sad.
Yeah.
How many stitches would you give it?
So I'm, 6 is maybe a 5. I think I would go 5, 4.5 to 5, somewhere around there.
Okay.
I don't think quite a 6. There's moments that are beautiful and that are like really cool. Like I really like the opera. I like the music.
Oh, of course.
I mean, that's me.
Yeah.
But and I like the
art,
music and the art. It's very
Sure.
artfully done, but it's over the top grotesque. It's not starling.
No.
The misogyny is insane. It's just a little bit way over the top.
Too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give it a 4.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I love Anthony Hopkins, but man, they really just changed this whole movie. And it apparently made so much money because everyone's so eager to see a sequel.
Yeah, they wanted to see a sequel, so
Right.
everyone went to see it.
Right. But then they were like, oh, this is what?
Not the same.
Not the same. So yeah, definitely yes for Silence of the Lambs. For me, no for Hannibal.
Yeah.
Want. You can crochet to this.
Oh yeah, you can crochet to it. I did. I definitely did. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I guess we've reached the end of another amazing episode, Stitchers.
We did it.
Thank you for sticking through all of the insaneness of today. And
so much insanity.
Enjoy the rest of your Friday the 13th, people.
Ooh, I hope it's not as spooky as Crazy Serial Killers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Stay away from crazy serial killers.
The moral of the story.
Stay away from crazy serial killers. Do not get in a car with strangers.
Please don't.
Yeah. Don't let your kids go with strangers.
Yeah. Please don't.
Okay. And until next time, we'll see you, Stitchers.
See you, Stitchers.